traversed the tombs of Naxxramas. We've climbed every cliff on Black Rock. Now the world cries out for heroes. As a new evil rises, there will be danger. There will be doom. There will be ancient temples filled with relics, treasures, and traps. Who will answer the call?
We will lead, explorers lead, and we are in need of explorers. Adventure we seek, cross land and sea. Born to come and join us.
Oh, yes!
Hello and welcome back to Season 2 of the StarLadder plus iLeague Series Championship. I'm Tanner Grace and I'm joined here by Lothar. Lothar, we had an amazingly blistering fast first match. So fast, in fact, that the players were even ready for the second match, it seemed, but we're about to have it go off just here in a second.
It was a blazing fast match. It was a quick 3-0 by Neria on 6-0, and the whole match actually took almost 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Three games.
And they were competitive too. It wasn't like Nyria just blew him out of the water in every game. It's just he just finished the game so quickly at every turn.
And every single game was just a decent head-to-head race who gets the board control. But then just Nyria had some insane combo moves like just the Savage Roar Force of Nature combo for Druid for 10-8 with the coin, which ended the game prematurely. Then we had the Control Warrior smashing Warlock's head with Grommash on turn. I think it was also 8 because it was Emperor on 6, and then Grommash and Slam. Bash. So that's
with
9
coin.
mana. So with coin, right? Yes. So that's turn 8. So also turn 8 finished by Neria with the Control Warrior on the Warlocks, on the Dragon Warlock, which was being played by Purple on DreamHack Winter and was supposed to be the best deck in the format, but was getting crushed by the Warriors, so it was a really crushing defeat, but at the same time, it didn't feel like it was one-sided, as you said, so it was a close game, as you said.
Yeah, close game, close match, but Nyria gets all three of them. The coin playing an integral part, as you said, and just easily winning, making combos come out that turn earlier in his game to get those. But our next match, no, not short of great players here as well. We got this guy named Firebat. You ever heard of him before?
Yeah, sometimes pops up here and there, and he started his career with an insane winning with 100k for the first World Championships, but it has to feel bad now that you can win like almost $1 million in the 2016, right? You would like to be a champion next year, most likely.
Yeah, I don't think he feels that bad about it. It'd be nice, where was that money when I won, 2 years ago? But I think, I don't have this 100%, but I think he's still the all-time money winner in Hearthstone. And if he has, a decent year this year, he'd probably be able to keep that as well. I expect him to be competing for almost every championship this year. The kid's got a little bit of talent.
Yeah, definitely true. But to be honest, I think I will check on the winnings of players in the meantime when we'll be casting, because that's something interesting to talk about. I think like Tiddled Celestial has the most wins under his belt, and I will take a look into that. But I
know it's close.
Yeah.
But it looks like we're going to be starting a matchup here right away. These guys, we've been having a small camera problem with the players, so they're going to get that fixed as soon as possible here. But we're going to be playing against Firebat's going to be playing against Jab here, a great player in his own right, coming off a very solid year, highlighted by the back half of it just being great for him. Great showings in a lot of tournaments like HPL, and then a very deep run in BlizzCon. And he's playing the deck that kind of put him on the map. He's known for having huge finishes with this deck on ladder in usually what is mid-range Hunter from him.
Yep, that's true on the mid-range Hunter. Something that is now mixed up in a lot of hunters is the fact that people are starting to use different type of traps. Even though it's a mid-range hunter, it doesn't necessarily run freezing traps. It might run bear trap, it might run snake trap, it might even run explosive trap, just to throw people, off curve and like make mistakes based on the mystery what the trap is.
Yeah, and Firebat's gonna get to live the dream here. He has an unanswered Knife Juggler going, get to be able followed up by Muster for Battle here, but the knives don't cooperate 100% here. I think he would have enjoyed, liked a clear here from his knives, but he still gets a giant board and a lot of pressure on Jab's side. So Jab, he does have Unleash the Hounds in his hand, is a very good answer here, though. So he's going to be able to fight back for this board. That seems to be what's important in the early games the early turns of this matchup.
Definitely true. If the Paladin can just get the board control really early on, especially with the Knife Juggler, which you can answer, it will just snowball so hard. It'll probably be very hard to catch up with the Paladin, because what we know is that Paladin lacks the ability to blast someone, with low board control. You can't blast anyone with a combo potential or whatever, because the most damage that you can deal from hand is basically Thirst of a Champion and Consecration, which is 6 damage. So if the Hunter takes the board control at some point of the game, even though he might be very low on health, he is most likely to win if he just takes the board control. So it's not so important to not have it, but you have to have the comeback potential at some point of the game. And Unleash the Hounds is one of the tools that is really needed in this particular matchup.
Yeah, and this isn't the Paladin deck I would have expected, that you would talk about today. We've already seen Defender of Argus plus an anti-Keelbot bot and a Quartermaster. Tyrion and True Silver Champion are cards that you see pretty ubiquitous between all the decks, but this seems like more mid-range to full-on control Paladin. And this is a deck, that we saw pretty popular early in Hearthstone, and it's starting to make a little bit of a comeback lately. I know a lot of the Eastern scene was playing it leading up into BlizzCon and stuff, but it wasn't too huge in the American scene in the last couple months at all.
Yeah, that's true. Like the mid-range Paladin is kind of feeling like it's a little bit underperforming if you compare it to the Secret Paladin, because the Secret Paladin is always a beatdown deck. And we know that beatdown decks are almost always feeling like it's something that feels more powerful than a control-ish mid-range Paladin, right? It just feels so powerful to drop the Mysterious Challenge on turn 6 and instantly win, an example. Or just drop minions on curve, like turn 6 Mysterious Challenge, turn 7 Dr. Boom, turn 8 Tyrion. Almost no deck at all can just compare to the level of power that Paladin packing in the deck. So it feels like you can win just by dropping huge minions on curve with the Secret Paladin, which is not the case with the mid-range Paladin, because it requires some other kind of decisions. Like you can't really base your deck on being on curve, because you play cards like Knife Juggler, like Defender of Argus, you play cards like Quartermaster, which are not the best cards if there's nothing on board already. So
yeah, and we're going to keep up with our theme of new cards popping up. That's a Keeper of Voldemort, and this card's making some pretty big splashes, and people have been getting number 1 on the ladder with different forms of Paladin. And this card, it's just very versatile. You can use it as an answer to an opponent's gigantic minion. You can turn one of your own guys into a 3/3 here, like making your hero power a lot more relevant in the games, and that's going to be a big deal here, because you may have heard us touch this earlier in the show, but this matchup I think is going to be about board control from these guys. Both these guys play really hard to the board. Jab's known for playing minion-centric decks, and Firebat is known for fighting very hard for the board here. And there's not many better things you can do to really take care of the board here than play a Dr. Boom early.
And he goes very aggressively, which I like a lot, because we know that the amount of damage that you will give to the Paladin will most likely not be healed unless there's a Lay on Hands. Of course, you can't know there's a heal bot right now in Firebat's hand, but putting a lot of pressure early on, because turn 6 is still early, will make Firebat's life a lot more tougher than if you would actually make a trade right now. Because the Consecration is not the perfect answer here. You will still have to sacrifice your own minions, so you give out Hunter still the initiative back to just play whatever he has in his hand, deal damage with hero power, so it doesn't necessarily go in the Paladin's favor to just prolong the game, because the hero power will just buffer him down. Even though you have heal, just the hero power might negate the heals with the insane damage that can dish out.
Yeah, I love your point that you made there, and I like the way that Jab's playing this. I love that he went super aggressive, because I feel that he knows there's no consecration on Firebat's side unless he top decked at this turn. The way the game is played out, there was a turn earlier where Firebat may have been incentivized to play a consecration because it would have been a little bit better for him. So he can push really hard here. And then if there was a consecration, it's not like it's the end of the game, like you were saying. He still has to trade into this Dr. Boom, and the Jab still has some resources behind his hand. He's still got another minion. He's got 2 burn spells. So he's trying to push his advantage while he feels he has the biggest one possible. And this is going to be the second Unleash the Hounds of this game, making 4 minions. Jab is getting a ton of value from all of his cards here, and he's going to be able to push a lot of damage this turn. This might be the push that wins him the game, too.
Yep, because we know that he has Kill Command, Quick Shot, and Hero Power for the next turn, which is most likely 5, 8, 10 damage, but more, I'm counting the beasts. Probably one will be alive. At least one will be alive next turn, even more now that the 1/1 gets killed by the bomb. So yeah, it looks very bleak for Firebat to take the game here.
Yeah, this is a great play by Jab here too. Getting him this low, I love just pushing all the damage that you can as quickly as possible because cards like Tyrion can't save Firebat here. You know, he has the hero power plus a kill command, and Firebat's just going to play Tyrion. You know, it's just pretty much his only way to even possibly win. He's just going to show it to him and actually concede here. It's the only way they could possibly survive that turn. But even then, he's still going to be just so far behind that he knows that he's actually just dead there. And that's just the classic example of Hunter doing what it's done since the dawn of time. If you don't have one of your good draws from your deck, Hunter is going to punish you.
Yeah, well, from the dawn of time, you said, but at the same time, I was playing when I was playing the beta phase. The only version of Hunter that was viable was control-ish, mid-range type of approach, you know, because there was no Unleash the Hounds with the dogs we know now. It was just a +1 attack, a permanent +1 attack buff for your beasts and give them charge. So there was like a different type of archetype for hunters, which were relying on comboing it with small beasts, which was also kind of a funny deck to play. It was a counter to Freeze Mage at some point. But yeah, now the Hunter does what Hunter does, which is pulling threats every single turn and just carrying out the turns with hero power to maximize the damage output during the match. And this is really important against classes like Paladins, against classes as Rogues, who have a limited access to heals, an example. And it's not because the class is bad at healing, like an example Paladin, but it just doesn't have the space to play those heal spells. And this is why people use Healbot. It's a minion and a heal at the same time. So it's way more important than, an example, a Lay on Hands.
Yeah, I much prefer Healbot. You actually get on the board, you can trigger some traps. Half the time you can get a freezing trap and get a re-heal out of it. That's a nightmare for a lot of the Hunter decks. You know, I want to talk a little bit about Jab's lineup here that he brought here today. He's obviously playing Hunter. You know, if Jab doesn't play Hunter in a tournament, that means Hunter is in the worst possible spot it can be in a metagame because he is known as the Hunter guy. But he's also playing Druid. This is a deck that Jab is also known for. I mean, he's been playing that in every tournament that I've seen him in for about the last 6 months. But I want to talk about his third deck. It's the deck that all 5 people in the group are playing here today, and that's Warlock. Yeah, and I expect maybe possibly Zoo from him, but it's possible that he has something like Demon Lock too. I mean, he's teammates of Muzzy at Hearthlytics, and I know Muzzy loves that deck as well, so there's a chance that he's playing that. So I'm interested to see what Warlock deck he plays, because he's not super known for playing Warlock. I have cast a lot of matches of Jab, and I have not seen him play this class very often. And Firebat, I'm talking a little bit about his lineup because he's the only person who brought a specific class here today. He's the only person who brought Priest. And we're actually going to go into a game that was that's already started here. We had a tiny bit of a camera problem. Sorry for this, guys, but it looks like Firebat is just going to, you know, ramp up the Paladin deck yet again. And man, he's got a great start here against Jab. But Jab's going to be able to stem a little bit of this beating with a Keeper of the Grove. This is the kind of card you want against these aggressive draws.
Yeah, but look at that. The Keeper of Ulduman giving him back the board, basically. Firebat is able to trade with the Keeper, still have minions on board, and he saw there was no swipe the turn before, because if there will be a swipe, it will be immediately used on that Knife Juggler with those pesky 1/1s, because that plays around Quartermaster, that plays around Keeper of Ulduman, so I'm sure that Jab would have used it. So a good read by Firebat to make the trade, even though he might be playing into the swipe, because he knows that there was no swipe in the hand.
Yeah, as we'll say, Quartermaster still would have been quite the beating off the top of the deck here, but Firebat's still no short of plays here. He's going to get a Sludge Belcher here behind this, and I want to talk to you about Keeper of Voldemort for 1 second. I mean, this card,
Sure.
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of it here, at least at first, until we find the best home for it. This card was one of the ones that kind of stood out to me a little bit in the new set, as this one could possibly be very good.
Yeah, it's I like the versatility of the card because it's as you said like a few minutes back, it gives you the options of either decreasing the stats or just dealing damage basically bigger minion of your opponent. But it's also a great tempo play just on your minion from turn 2 on 3, which builds up the board. So you can be aggressive or defensive at the same time with the same card. The only drawback of this card is the fact that if you have nothing on board, you have to target your opponent's minion. So you can actually help your opponent if he has something that has stats below 3/3, and you have to boost that, like a totem, example. But that's like the only drawback. And when you play Paladin, you can assume that you probably will have something on board.
Yeah, Jab is in a tough spot here, but he did find a little bit of a way to clear up this board. You know, this 1 mana Wrath is going to work pretty well with this Force of Nature if he wants to use it here to alleviate a lot of the pressure that Firebat is putting on him. And he could possibly hope, you know, he knows this is a late game centric controlling kind of Paladin deck, so he can hope that there's not a lot of pressure coming behind this. You know, maybe there's just an anti-Keel bot in the hand like we see with Firebats to where he's not just dead on the next turn or two, because his hand's going to be pretty powerful over the next few turns if he can actually stabilize and regain this board, because Firebat has come out swinging in this game. And I loved his use of Equality last turn because it's like you said, there's no swipe. He would have swiped that turn earlier. He would have to have drawn it. He knows that, and he doesn't need to play around it.
That's true, and he's still putting up minions on board, so it looks very weak for Jab here because he already used a Wrath, he already used some forms of making a comeback on the board, so now he relies that on minions, and the minions have always a 1-turn delay. Even though there's a Belcher which can soak up so damage, but a single Owl will just finish off the game here.
Yeah, and it's a good top deck for Jab here. He definitely needed, you know, some kind of recovery card here. This isn't, you know, possibly his best one in his deck, but this is something for him to be doing, and he gets to add a little bit of pressure as well in a Piloted Shredder. And, you know, hopefully there's no Owl from him here out of Firebat, because like you said, it would have actually just ended the game on the spot. But Jab's hand, it's getting a little iffy here. You know, this Force of Nature, it's a little bit of a flexible card. You can use it to finish people off or removal like we just saw, but he doesn't have a way to deal with Tyrion. You know, he had to use that Keeper of the Grove very early in the game. I'm a big fan of saving Silence against Paladin decks because they always have Tyrion in their deck, and it's the best, you know, target ever to silence. But you know, he had to do that early in the game. He had to use that Keeper because Firebat put so much pressure on him. And so we're seeing the understanding of the matchup from Firebat there, really putting Jab into a rough position here. And ooh, a little bit of a huge Toad in play here. Another new card here.
New card,
Yeah.
not as often used as
Right.
I would think. But it's still a good minion. It's a 2-mana 3/2 beast with a Death Rattle. Should fit into the Hunter theme, right?
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be really wanting to push the Beast theme for Hunter and for Druid. You know, that's something they've been trying to get going, it feels like, for about a year now. They've been getting us, you know, little pieces here and there in different sets. But, you know, this Lay on Hands, and then for Firebat this turn, is going to give him 3 more cards. Plus he has an Ashbringer. And this is going to be a lot of damage out of Firebat's deck here. In fact, he's going to be able to set up lethal next turn if Jab has nothing to stop him here. And he just has this big Game Hunter, which I dare to say may have 1 target in Firebat's whole deck.
Yeah, that's true, but it's not important at all if he just attacks with everything to the face and set up the health of the Druid for 4. So even though Jab might armor up this turn, it will be not enough to keep him safe from the attack of the ginormous sword next turn.
Yeah, so Jab has 2 options this turn. He's going to be able to cycle this Wild Growth and find another card to maybe find a way to... Saboteur is not a defensive card now. He's still...
Not that card.
Yeah, he has no way to actually kill off his Piloted Shredder as well, because there's maybe a backdoor out there of getting a taunt minion out of his Piloted Shredder. There's always, you know, the 1 or 2 in 70 or whatever it is now. I forgot how many 2-drops there are now with the new cards.
Yeah, there are way more than 70 right now.
Yeah, exactly. There's a few more, and he has that backdoor up, but there's no way for him to actually kill his own pilot shredder there. We've seen some cool plays, players fireballing their own pilot shredders or wrathing their own pilot shredders, trying to find, that one-of minion that just saves them in a spot. And that's led to some pretty cool spots. But Firebat's going to even up this match here. Man, these games have been quick today. These guys have got places to be.
Yeah, probably, but it's still 1-1, so we might see 3 more matches in this game, 3 more games in this match, sorry. And I'm really looking forward to see the Jab's Warlock, what type of Warlock it is. I hope it's Reno Jackson Warlock. It's always interesting to see those type of decks because they are sporting unique cards. You are basically pushed by the cards design to use different types of cards, even though they might have similar approach to game plan. Like an example, in when we saw Xixo versus Naria, there's the Demon Wrath instead of Hellfire, right? We might have like an example, Bomb Blobber instead of Blackwing Corruptor or something like that. So there's always a lot of possibilities, and it seems like Firebat is running the Dragon Warlock that is on fire in the meta game because of Purple winning the DreamHack Winter.
Yeah, I mean, anytime Purple wins a tournament or does really well in a tournament, he's always got some kind of cool new take on a deck or something that, we haven't seen as much of lately. He's known as kind of a brewer, you know what I mean? He always has some cool new deck that, you don't always, you're like not always super familiar with. And I love seeing that from players like him, but then it catches on. All these players are seeing how good and how awesome the deck actually is. And Jab, pretty good start from here. He had the turn 2 Wild Growth into a Pilot Shredder, but Firebat has the perfect answer here into Owl and Dark Bomb to where there's no Death Rattle. But Jab, he's got a lot of stuff behind this. He's got some Druid of the Claws that he can play and keep adding big minions to the board.
Yeah, we want to talk today with Froden about the Arambic Owl. We nicknamed the owl with Destroyer of Dreams, because basically it's just the 2 mana small card with 2 mana stats, 2/1 stats, but it just destroys every single creature that has insight. It's just you have a cool effect. No, you don't. You have taunt. No, you don't. You have a weapon inside your turn. No, you don't. So
I've had a lot of nightmares with the hoot hoot sound happening about Hearthstone. Lost a lot of tournament games, a lot of ladder games to well-timed owls from our opponent. And I love Jab being aggressive here. He's going to go into the charge mode here. But Firebat picks up an Emperor, and this is a pretty decent Emperor hand that doesn't have Malaghost in it. This is one of the better ones.
It is, but imagine if there would be a Innervate combo right now. That would be the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Innervate combo would end the game here, but I don't think Firebat can afford to play around that. And in a lot of matchups, you have to take a risk at some point in time. And I think this is a pretty decent one for Firebat here. And Jab's just going to go ahead and cycle a Wrath here and then use a swipe to take care of this Emperor Thorson. This is a minion that you can't leave sitting on the board. And he got a lot of information kind of how Firebat's hand is going to be here. But this is one of the big new cards that we've seen. You just keep seeing these every game. This is going to gain over 8 life here. We got a double battle cry here on Antique Healbot. I mean, this card can do some disgusting things to a game of Hearthstone.
Yeah, 16 heal. It's just you can practically say that this card was a Reno Jackson with the amount of healing it got, and yet it has a lot more possibilities in the future. Like the Blackwing Corruptor is just able to swing the board by itself by dealing 6 damage. So Jab is forced to leave the Reno Jackson, the Brand Bronzebeard in game. So that means the Blackwing Corruptor will just destroy everything inside, and this is really tough to deal with for Jab right now. The amount of minions, the amount of heal, the amount of health points they have is so hard to remove for the Druid player. You have only access to swipe basically, and that's like removing 1 minion basically.
Yeah, now you're seeing why Purple and a bunch of people think this might possibly be one of the best decks right now. I mean, when you have turns like this is insanely powerful. I mean, the last 2 turns, he had a 16 heal off of a Healbot. He gets 6 damage off of Blackwing Corruptor, plus he gets the 3/3 and the 5/4 minions. I mean, what decks can deal with this? I mean, this is unbelievable. These double battle cries, and then it's still sitting in play. He's still got to answer it.
Yep, that's true. Like the amount of threats that that Firebat just put on the board was insane. And even though Jab is making a kind of a comeback, though it still will be hard to deal with the upcoming turns from Firebat, because he has access to tap every single turn. He can just drop threats by dozens. Like the Twilight Guardian right now is... How do you deal with that? You are pushed to use Savage Roar to deal with that minion?
Yeah, and this is not something you're going to be using Savage Roar for, just to push through one minion. That's not what the card is designed to do. You know, he does draw a Keeper of the Grove here to kind of silence the Twilight Guardian here if he wants to get through, but again, he's not making great headway. And I want to talk about something that's in Firebat's deck. He's got a Keys and Mystic in his deck, right? I want to see that steal 2 secrets. I haven't seen that one happen yet, the double battle cry, but that's probably a pretty cool one that can happen against, say, like a Paladin player, or God forbid you get 2 secrets out of a mage deck.
Well, I have seen that on a stream, but I never seen that in a competitive game yet.
I have a feeling we're probably going to see it at some point in time this year. I have a feeling, you know, League of Explorers, we talked about it, it might have a big impact, you know, going forward. It's obviously having a big impact so far in this tournament. We've seen a lot of people playing new cards as Dark Peddler comes into play here, and we're seeing one of the new mechanics as well. I love this new mechanic, by the way. It's great for the game, real skill intuitive. And then Discover is just great. And, you know, when new sets come out, you see a lot of players trying out the new cards right away, and then sometimes they kind of like fade away. There's a chance a lot of these don't fade away. These cards can be insanely powerful.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the new Murloc, you know? The one mana Sir Finlay Murgulton, or what was his name? I have the card here. Sir Finlay Murgulton. So, he's something that I'm looking forward to use.
Yeah, I'm not a big Murloc player myself. I'm going to leave that one to you, Lothar here. But Jab, he's just cycling for his life here with his Azure Drake, and he picks up another card that's not going to do much for him here. He's just going to be able to hero power and just pass here. So Firebat firmly in the driver's seat here. And like you said, he's just been able to tap practically every turn. You know, that double heal from the Antique Heal bot. I mean, he's just burying Jab in card advantage.
By the way, I really want to talk here about the production of this tournament, because we can clearly see what is going on with the discoveries, which is I would say a pain in the back for the producers of the tournament, because you have to take that from the other client of the second player. So really kudos to StarLadder for actually putting that out here, so the viewers can see what's happening during the discovery.
Oh yeah, great production value from these guys. I mean, it's so smooth, so flawless, and you get to see them actually make the decision, which is a big deal. You don't just see the card they chose, because you get a lot of choices sometimes. You know, sometimes there's 2 or 3 cards that you could use in a situation, and you get to kind of see, you know, their thought process and what's important here. And again, Jab's making a last-ditch effort here, drawing a few extra cards, but he's actually going to fall to Firebat here in game 2. I got to say that the big thing for that game was the Antique Healbot turn, just gaining so much life, putting him out of reach of anything Jab could do, plus just allowing tap for the rest of the game.
Yeah, well, basically that was allowed just because the turn 6 was an Emperor, right? Because the Emperor allowed the turn 7 to be Brand Bronzebeard into Healbot. Then turn after that, he had the option to Dark Bomb for 1 mana and Mortal Coil, a 4 HP minion, which did cost him only 1 mana, and still to redraw a card. So that was a big deal. And the MVP of that game, I would say, was Emperor, who ate 2 cards, 2 removals, and just acted like an insane catalysator for the upcoming turns.
And it looks like Jab is going to run back his Druid deck here, and he has Wild Growth for turn 2 here. Now, I was interested to see what Priest deck Firebat was playing, because you can always guess it's probably going to be something like Dragon Priest, which it looks like it is, but it's Firebat, and he's known for playing some crazy Priest decks in tournament settings before. You know, pretty famously made the Freeze Priest deck. You know, everyone's heard of Freeze Mage, but he had the one turn, the OTK Freeze Priest deck for a little while as well. It's
kind of crazy when you think about it, but he was playing that. And now it seems like he's playing the Dragon Priest, which should have a decent chances against Druid, because they rely on high health minions themselves. So Druid, as we talked before, has problem to deal with those minions, and now can see how efficient trades are being made by the Priest.
Yeah, I mean,
And
this is what makes this deck so. Yeah, this is what makes this deck so good, so hard to play against. Is once it gets control of the board, it's so hard to take it away from the priest deck because they have such high health on their minions and their heals just allow them to continue to control the board so much. Jab's gonna get to cheat on mana here. He's gonna have to hope that's good enough to keep him in this. A little thing about Firebat's deck. This reminds me of Tice's deck that he played in the BlizzCon championships. You know, he has the 3/4/3 drop that adds 3 health, Dark Cultist, instead of Blackwing Tactician. And I like that card a little bit better. You know, it's a little more consistent. You don't have to have a dragon to trigger it. Plus, adding the health to one of your minions can be the difference in a game, as you said. And it's so important for them to hold onto that board.
Yeah, that's true. And after playtesting it myself, I have to admit that the Technician is not that great. The Dark Cultist just on its own is more powerful. Doesn't rely on the synergies. And as you know, having the dragon in the hand is not always the case. So having a card that is not relying on that is really great.
Yeah, it looks like Jab's going to do some work in clearing up this board here this turn. This swipe is a pretty good swipe from this turn. It's going to leave Firebat with just a Northshire Cleric here. So Jab is fighting the good fight here. He's doing what you have to do against Dragon Priest, and that is just keep whittling away at their board, and then eventually you can overwhelm them. If they get hold of the board early, it's hard to do.
That's true, but now Firebat has a tricky decision to make, and I think the Dragon Wrist, what was his name? Mana Wrist Agent, can just be dropped as basically a target for the Ancient of Law next turn, so it can just be, a obstacle for it. But the draw from the priest to change the line of the turn, because the Valiant Chosen was allowing him, did allow him to trade efficiently and still have a decent minion on board.
Yeah, he's going to be able to put, Valence Chosen on his minion here and keep both of them around instead of just, sacrificing the Wormrest Agent to the other minion from Jab here. Now, Jab, I got to believe this is going to be in charge mode, right? You cannot let this Northshire Cleric just keep sitting on the board and gaining so much value. I mean, it's got so much toughness, it's got the spell power buff, and it's going to be drawing extra cards just for 2 mana every turn.
Definitely agree. You can't let that live, even though you... Oh, wow, he's actually doing it. Okay, especially with the spell power, right? You might be aware that even a single Holy Nova right now would kill both minions.
Yeah, I mean, it would cost Firebat his Northshire Cleric because he only has 6 mana. He wouldn't be able to Holy Nova plus heal. But I mean, I'm sure Jab has a reason for this. He playtests a lot. Jab is one of the most meticulous Hearthstone players in the world. Firebat made it kind of popular doing the spreadsheets going into BlizzCon before his championship. But I know Jab is meticulous in the notes that he keeps on all of his matches. So I'm sure there's some rhyme and reason behind this. He has to have a plan going forward for the next few turns to try to win.
Okay, interesting approach. I mean, it works for him right now because there's no Holy Nova. And there's no Power Shield to just, play around those cards. Cabal Shadow is being used on the Darnassus Aspen, so the downside of Darnassus Aspen will be applied to the Priest player. So he won't, most likely, Firebat will not be allowed to play Dr. Boom next turn. But at the same time, he gave himself another body that is hard for Druid to remove, because it has 3 HP. So he has to use a Wrath on that, which is his own card, even though the priest will be will have destroyed a mana crystal. Will have destroyed. It's not a big deal for the priest, but that he knows that Druid has to put resources into that, and that's a great move by Firebat.
Now, do you feel that this matchup is a little bit favored for Dragon Priest? The more that I play it, I actually prefer to be on the Dragon Priest side, as long as you can A, play around combo as much as possible, and B, it's hard to win when they turn 1 a Shredder or turn 2 a Shredder. That's really hard to deal with. But I actually find that it could be pretty good on the Dragon Priest side because you just go wide pretty well. You play 2 to 3 to 4 minions on the board, and it's really hard for them to punish you for that.
Yes, exactly, and this is something that Druid has just problems with it. Would deal with multiple minions that have more than 2 HP. You have to sacrifice a lot of your own stuff, and then you're decreasing the numbers of potential damage that can be dished out by the combo, or you have to sacrifice swipes and reps and not build, and you can build the board at the same time. So you always give the initiative back to the priest to have minions on board first. So it's a really hard matchup for the druid.
Yeah, and like you're seeing it right now because Jab, he wants to push damage. He has this Force of Nature and Savage Roar in his hand, but he has to clear some of these minions off the board because he doesn't have exactly lethal yet. He's a little bit short, and he's not going to be able to keep the board if he just starts going face here. Firebat would be able to make good value trades, and then he would just actually lose his advantage here. And he might be forced into using this Force of Nature Savage Roar just to get some good clears here.
Definitely, the combo will be used this turn just to rebuild the board and have the advantage himself, because that will allow Jab to keep the low tip on board. And if Firebat will not have the Shadow Ward Death in his hand and a follow up after that, which will be most likely which will be unlikely to have because of the 4 mana left after the Shadow Ward Death, and we know there's no Shadow Ward Death either way, so huge deal for Jab here to make the comeback with the combo and at the same time use the Innovate to put the Mounted Raptor on the board, because that allows him to take the board advantage to his side again.
Yeah. It looks like Jab is all in here. He's got every card, everything's face up. Jab has all of his cards in place, no cards left in his hand, and that's not a bad top deck here from Firebat if he wants to get this Blackwing Corruptor in play to start, contesting this board. But it's really hard to pass up Dr. Boom when you have 7 mana. So Jab, he's looking to, this is a great top deck for Jab here. This is a great minion, plus it's going to get him a card deeper into his deck. And he picks up another Savage Roar.
And now this is a moment when you can think about using Savage Roar as a fireball, because it adds +2 damage per minion and your hero. So you can just deal 6, 11, 14 damage to your opponent's face. But then you have to ask yourself a question. How do I deal that last 8 damage when your opponent will be healing more than you deal with your hero power? So you need to dish out that damage by playing minions or by having a Force of Nature swipe, something like that. And that's of course not enough when you use already 2 Savage Roars. But I wanted also to say about the Dr. Boom turn. Even though that it might have been a different creature, let's say it's a 7 mana, even a War Golem, right? You would probably favor the War Golem instead of Blackwing Corruptor, just because of this, of the fact that your Blackwing Corruptor has an immediate effect, and your War Golem will have to wait 1 turn to attack. So this way, you put more answers on the board by with the drawback of dealing of your opponent dealing more damage to your face.
Yeah, and I love the sequencing here from Firebat and the way that he attacked, and this is all but going to seal this game here. He's at 15, so no combo plus hero power is not possible here for Jab, so there's no way for him to actually kill Firebat. And I have to believe Firebat's going to heal himself for the rest of the game here. And going back to that turn before, it's like you said, he maybe should have used that Savage Roar there, because are you going to get a better turn to use it? It's so hard to figure out, I can get him to like 8, where am I going to find that 8 damage? Maybe you should use Savage Roar to push a little bit of damage there and trade up into Dr. Boom. There's a lot of different lines you can take, but none of them seem amazing, none of them seem great, and maybe this is the risk that Jab just had to take.
Yep. And now it seems like either you top deck Savage Roar, Force of Nature, and you deal the 14 damage and then hope to finish off your opponent by a lucky swipe top deck, or you just can't win the game from now on, because you will not have board control. Oh wait, there's still Sylvanas on board, so this poses a big problem. But at the same time, there's 5, 9, 14, 16 damage at least sitting on board. But I guess Firebat will just taking the board control slowly and punishing Jab with just insane amount of creatures on board.
Yeah, he may go for a value trade against the Dr. Boom here, pick off these Boom bots if he can, and then run his Sylvanas into the Dr. Boom here. It matters how aggressive Firebat wants to be, but you gotta believe that he's thinking in his mind, I have such a good stranglehold on this game, how do I lose from here?
Yeah, there's no way he can lose this game. I mean, I'm sure that he will just trade with the Dr. Boom, get a huge exactly that was the outcome that he was looking for, because the first bomb dealt 4 damage to the minion, to the Sylvanas, which allowed him to get a clear 7-7 Dr. Boom on his side of the board, which is insane. But it worked out well for Firebat, and now Jab has nothing else to do but concede this game.
Wow, what a play by Firebat here. You're seeing why he is the world champion, just understanding his matchup so well. And there's multiple turns that he sequenced just perfectly in his attacks. You know, the Boombot helped him out a little bit there, but he put himself in that position. You see a lot of the best players in the world taking RNG into effect and using it, you know, in their advantage. They're like, what's the best outcomes for me and the best way to sequence this turn for that here? And it ended up working out just perfectly for him. As you said, he didn't get a damage Dr. Boom. He got the full 7-7 one, which ended up might not have exactly mattered, but still great matchup here from these two guys. Another quick one, but man, Firebat played great in that match.
Yeah, the Firebat definitely pulled it off, and he had, when you think about it, his matchups were paired up perfectly against his opponents. So neat setup. We need 3 decks picked up by Firebat here for the Conquest format, and it worked well for him. So he got his first win with a 3-1 result, and he will be playing against Trump with the next match, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check it.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be Trump versus Nyria in the next match. And I want to hit on one more thing about Firebat. You kind of hit on it. I think your point is great. You love his unique lineup. Yeah, he has Priest, and he's the only person playing it here today. This is something Firebat does. Almost every time you see his lineup in these kind of tournaments, he always has like 1 or 2 decks where you're like, is he playing Shaman today? Is he playing Priest today?
Yeah.
And then you just see, you're like, oh, there's so much method behind this madness, and it's just great for the metagame call, and it looks good against almost every single lineup that's here today. So love seeing that from Firebat here. And as you alluded to, we have a pretty good one in our next match too. Trump's going to be making his first appearance out of this group, and Nyria, who had a quick 3-0 over 6-0 in our first match, is going to be looking to put the first 2-0 up from this group on the board. Who do you got in this match?
Yeah, well, I guess Nyria would like to be trumping Trump with another 3-0, and Trump will this is something I would like to also touch. Nyria did have to show his decks before Trump, so Trump will have a slight advantage here of having the information of what Nyria plays. I mean, it's Conquest, so it's not that big of a deal, because it's the order which you choose the decks is not as important as in Last Hero Standing, especially when you ban something specifically, so you know the purpose of the lineup. But it's still a small edge for Trump. So I'm really curious if Trump will take advantage of that and see what was Nyria's first opening deck in the previous match and try to counter the first pick if Nyria sticks on that. But Nyria should know better and start with something else. So yeah. I'm really interested how it will be in the next game between those two players.
Yeah, love that point for you from Trump. Trump has all the information on Nyria, while Nyria has none. So Trump is working with perfect information for game 1 in what deck he thinks is the best versus the 3 from Nyria. Great point from you there. So that's going to be our next match. It's going to be Trump versus Nyria. Let's see if the quick matches continue. They've all been at a pretty fast pace, and we've had a 3-game and a 4-game set. Maybe we should have a 5. It feels like we should get some more games out of this. So we're going to take a quick break, guys, set up that next match for you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with StarLadder.